show is designed to serve and protect, to guide to the Savior, and to win the lost. You're now listening to The Prophetic Watch with your host, Ronnie McMullen.
Wake up, America! It's Thursday. Ronnie McMullen here with you on The Prophetic Watch. How are you doing? It is Thursday, and this is the last night of the Leo Wanta story with special guest Greg Szymanski. He is an investigative reporter, ArcticBeacon.com. ArcticBeacon.com. Very sharp man. I've been following not just this Leo Wanta story, but others as well. And I want to thank all of you for supporting the Prophetic Watch, for listening. It seems lately a little bit of flack coming my way. It must be doing something right. I pray for all of you people that think you're better than me or anybody else, and hope to God that the Lord will show you grace and compassion. But I'll tell you something. I'm excited. You know, I am excited. I was feeling kind of gloomy there for about 60 days, but you intercessors are praying for me, and the few that follow me really headstrong. Thank you. I cannot tell you. Thank you. It seems like I seem to do better in the fire. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's why God's got to throw me there. Anyway, it is time for special guest Greg Szymanski. Stay with us. Good evening, Greg. Welcome back to the Prophetic Watch. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine. How are you tonight?
I'm great. It's been a crazy week with this story. I find when I'm listening to you explain what is going on, what's happening with Leo, what's happening with our system and our government. It is so overwhelming, and it attacks everything again, with the government, you think that they're there to protect you, they're there to be for you, they're out for the public, and we're finding out that this is not true. Things have been perverted. I'm sure there's a lot of people, just like you said, a lot of people, you show them the truth and you show them the documents and they still don't believe it. Their belief system will not allow them to understand that we are in trouble. I have to say, it's very heavy. Do you find that people listening to you, or do you get emails from the Arctic Beacon that say, I want to believe this, but it's just so hard because if this is all true, America is toast?
Well, surprisingly enough, I covered this story for, maybe a year and a half, almost 2 years. And when I first started talking to Leo and putting the story out, it received, attention, but not the attention that I've gotten in the last month since the settlement had been made, because that brought it to light. That brought the story to maturity, brought it into focus. And yes, I don't think I've ever covered a story where I've received more emails, thousands of them, from all over the country, from all over the world, regarding this story. And like I wrote, most of them are positive. I would say 90% of the people want to go forward, want to do something. Many are thinking of things to do, contact their representatives. Many have in their states, and not one person yet has gotten an answer.
Right.
That's let me know that.
Right.
And I've had even U.S. ex-Navy pilots that said, well, listen, I got an ex-Navy pilot who said, listen, if they don't want to admit the story's true and say they don't know anything about it, let me go over to Washington with with millions of flyers, and maybe they'll see one. He wants the paper. Are you there?
Yeah.
He wants to paper Washington. So I mean, we all know, in a sense, that. But the people that disagreed first found it to be unbelievable, the money, and it couldn't be true. So they couldn't get over the fact that there was so much money around. And so there was the most, and then the people. Then I go over to the media. And I do it this way. The mainstream media is not expected to cover it. You know why? The alternative media, there's only been a couple of people who have helped me, and the rest have either criticized it or not talked about it anymore. But these are the same people that would have talked about it a year ago, when it seemed like it never would come to any kind of thing.
So everybody that touches this story is at this point pretty much criticized or made to look like liars.
Exactly.
Okay.
I've been called a fraud, a scam. I mean, a KGB agent, a Mossad member. I mean, everything under the sun.
So you're a terrorist, right?
Yeah.
I don't mean to laugh, but it's terrible. So now let's talk about this transfer. We have this releasing of the money. Has this it's what is it? 4.7
5 trillion.
5 trillion. Okay, so 5 trillion's been released.
4.5. No, 4.5.
Okay, 4.5 trillion
agreement.
Okay, where did this money go?
Okay, well, here's what happened. They reached the agreement, and the money came over from several banks and was transferred into a Bank of America account in Virginia. Okay? Now, that was about a month ago, and excuse me if I don't have exact dates.
Right.
But this when the notification of letters and everything was sent to Bush, and he got wind of it, Bush Jr. and Paulson, when Bush Sr. or Jr. was at the recent G8 summit,
yeah,
on his way back, he instructed the Bank of America not to release any of the funds
to
Wanta. And he also instructed Paulson not to release anything. So when Wanta and Michael Cottrell, as treasurer, found out about that, they decided to go public because they had been waiting for about 3 weeks or a month, and when they found out exactly what happened, they finally decided to go public, and that's when I got Leo back on the show, and Michael, and we did about 2 weeks' worth of interviews with Christopher Story from England regarding the status of this money, with documentation where it was. Well, at that point, the money, they said it's in a Bank of America account, but they could never get verification, so they started to find out that it was actually being ripped off again.
Are you kidding me?
No. And so the money was, in the same time, you had documentation of Bush Sr., Bush Clinton, several others going to Switzerland to get more money out before anything hit the fan and trying to release other trillions of dollars.
Okay.
And they were turned down. Now, that story has been verified, but never can be totally verified. So we're going to go and just say, if you think about it, the guys that know where the money is have access to it. Trying to get it out, it makes sense to me because that's usually what criminals do when they hear something like the Wanta settlement coming down. Because what this Wanta settlement meant was that, okay, the money's going to be released. Somebody's going to have to account for it. Americans are going to know they got $1.6 trillion coming to them, plus other money being made, Leo making, the corporation making statements. And, it would also open up a can of worms about the other 27.5T.
Right.
And so that's what they don't want. So Bush was instructed not to release it. And that's where it's at. Well, as time went on, and during that period of time, it was very tumultuous for me because I was the only one really covering it. And I had calls and emails and threats and basically misinformation people telling me stories. And, I didn't know who to believe, but right. I only thought this. The only person I can really believe are the people I've believed in the past.
Right.
And the rest of them were all either set up to do it, to get me off track, or to find out what I was doing. I had emails to the extent where, you better tell us where Leo is and all the things he's doing because, you're not going to be around much longer anyway.
Oh, how nice.
And so things like that.
Tell me about the Children's Fund, because the Children's Fund, everybody's going to be, oh, that's a Children's. Tell me who's behind that and what's going on.
Well, that story is a separate story, and I'll try to do it quickly because it could take another show.
Yeah.
But that had to do with Clinton authorizing Vince Foster about 2 weeks before he was killed to meet Leo Wanta in Switzerland at the time they were going to arrest Rich, and to get $250 million released out of this 27.5T to help the Children's Fund. Okay? And that was made on and Leo has account records of $380 million deposits given to Foster. He then went back to the States and was killed. Does
that Children's Fund really benefit the children?
No. Nobody's ever heard about that money ever since.
Okay, so it's
nobody can track the money. Nobody knows where that $250 million is. I'm sure it's used. It turns out that Hillary Clinton was the head of the so-called Children's Fund.
But no children
ever got documentation of that what happened to that $250 million after Foster came back. That is not even in any of the. You would think if a guy was killed, they'd want to know where he was 2 weeks before, right?
Right.
What he was doing. That was never addressed. So the $250 million just mysteriously disappeared.
Is a lot of the funds that have been snaked out of this account? Do they have connections with people that are in bad places?
Of course. Sure.
like Bush Sr., Clinton.
Yes.
Because I always thought it was interesting, if you notice the tsunami, here all of a sudden they said it's kind of like the ex-presidents getting together trying to raise funds. And here we have Gerald Ford was still alive. We have Jimmy Carter still alive, but they're not in it. It's only Bush Sr., Bush Jr., and President Clinton.
Yeah.
And I always thought, why this seems like they're they're supposedly wearing opposite shirts here, but now they're all wearing the same shirts, and to me it was a clue that there's something very deep going on here.
Yeah, well, they were always on the same team. They just had to put up a show like they're going to put up in the next election,
right.
And like they always have done. And you see, that's where America needs to stand together and say, even if we have no system anymore that works. Even if we go to the elections, they've corrupted that to the point where you can't even believe your vote, even if you cast it, and that's what they want.
So, out of this $4.5 trillion, it's already been ripped off. Is that what you're?
Well, here's what happened. Yeah, they tracked it down. Then they the intention of Mike to go public on this was to bring forth the evidence.
Okay.
Now they have evidence that here's what happened since then. So they come out with a story and they say, listen, we know where the money has gone. We know that you've been trying to do this. Here's the accounts. Here's what happened to it. Its money's been tagged. Now we're tracing it down. And we know that even $25 trillion recently, not all out of this fund, but other money, has been funneled to India. So now they're funneling money because they know they're trying to figure out what to do, I think.
Okay.
Because now they've tracked $25 trillion being funneled to India. And the 4.5T, which is their main concern,
right,
was then released from the Bank of America, says, I don't want to touch this money anymore. And they now have got it in a federal CHIPS account that's sitting there.
Okay.
Now, the money's tagged, it's back there, but it hasn't been released. So that was about a week ago. Okay, and their strategy right now is to basically do everything they can to get this money released, and when it's released, their announcement will be this. The money has been released, 1.6 is being used for taxes, and we're going to benefit the American economy, and we're going to use it exactly like we said we. And he's already documented how they want to use it.
Okay.
So, if it's not released within a short period of time, they are going to go forward to get all the money and to expose all the corruption, because they have all the accounts and they're gathering it as we speak against these people.
Now, do the bad guys know where all the money is?
Leo?
No, the bad guys. The New
they
World
don't
Order.
know. I think that's why I don't think they know where all of his is.
Right.
But they have access to much more. But the whole thing is, whether they know where every penny is, and they wanted more of his money, they had a reason for him to get out. It was a quirk of fate, but there's a reason, and I thought it was because they wanted to know more about what he was going to do, and to get an advantage. There's only two ways the story can go. One, they'll release it, and there's people that believe they'll release it.
Okay.
Now, the reason they do is because it's going to be much worse for them if they don't.
Now, if they release it, will this buy us a little time in our, because obviously we're heading for an economy crash.
It will buy the economy time, but yet what it'll do is it'll open up the story to everyone that says, yes, they are stealing it, and it will set up a period of 10 years where journalists have so much to work with that if there are truthful people out there, we can finally get to the bottom of where a lot of this money came and maybe delay what they're doing, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's take a break, and after this break, let's finish up with the story of what are we going to see happen here in the near future. We'll take a break. We'll be right back after these messages. You're listening to The Prophetic Watch, www.thepropheticwatch.com, with special guest Greg Szymanski. ArcticBeacon.com is his website. Check him out there. So, Greg, tell me this. We've got, you really believe that they're going to release some of this money, and this is obviously going to go back into our economy and maybe fuel us for a little bit longer, and possibly even expose that they're stealing, and them being this New World Order, Trilateral Commission, whatever you want to call it, black budget type thing. Something is going to be exposed. Now, do you think they're going to want that? I mean, aren't they going to try to hide that?
Well, let's get to this is a story that takes it away from the realm of just speculation. For example, many have speculated about George Bush's drug running and a bunch of other stories, but you never can really pin it.
Right.
You can get people, and they know that.
Right.
Like a good friend of mine told me, so anytime you're dealing with these people, especially in high-level government, you're never going to bring them down. And that means judges and all these without facts, without actual documentation.
Sure.
That's what this story provides.
Sure.
And that's why it's so dangerous to them. Because if it does come out, they know that, one, it's going to show that something's going on, that there's you're telling me we're $8.7 trillion in debt and America's in terrible shape, and now you got all this money that you've been using for your own purposes
right.
to foster war. Where's this money going? It's going to open up something that demolishes, I think, every senator, every congressman that's walking the face of Washington right now. Mm-hmm. Because if they allow the story to get out, that's what's going to happen. It's got a snowball domino effect. They know it.
Yeah.
So when I say, do I think they're going to release it or not, I'm going to withhold my own opinion, because at this point, I've listened, and I'm telling you what some people that I've talked to, including Mike Cottrell, the treasurer, and others, believe they're going to release it because they can't see any reason that even if they don't, it's going to get worse. The only thing that won't get worse is it can always stay into this realm of maybe never knowing, right? But I don't think that even works, because it's all documented in the courts and in settlement agreements, things that if they push it to a point where push comes to shove, they will succeed. So whether they're trying to delay it for other reasons I don't know about, let's get into the other group that says they'll never release it.
Okay.
Now, the reason this group says they'll never release it, because it's an admission of guilt.
Absolutely.
And they never want to do that.
Right.
It's kind of like the
giveaway.
guy who gets caught in bed with his mistress.
Right.
And even if his wife sees it, he's going to say, no, it didn't happen.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I didn't do it. So it's about the same. And so that's a group of people that say they can't release it, and they'll go down. They'll do anything not to. Mm-hmm. Now, in lies what can happen. I believe that, here's what I believe will happen. I will believe good people are going to come forward. Something is going to happen out of their control, out of the Vatican's control, out of the criminals that are working for them here and in Israel and all over, that's going to force this release somehow, some way.
Okay.
Because I believe it is going to put back their plans. Because I believe that, you know what, every now and then something happens, God does something, that you really just sit back and you go, I knew there was a God.
You know what I call it? I call it a delayed blessing.
Yeah.
He comes at a time when you think, oh my gosh, you're almost out of hope, and something comes along. And I hope something comes up to where this is released and buys us some time, because our economy is going down quickly. The real estate's imploding, so on and so forth. So this might change things if it came out.
Right. And I feel this way. Whatever happens, so much of it's out of the control of many of us talking about it.
Yeah.
Much of it may even be out of the control of Leo. But I think even without anything happening further,
mm-hmm.
Americans owe it to themselves to research this story, because it even provides some delay now without anything happening, because of the validity and truth behind this man and what has happened.
Now, on your website, are all of these documents and facts available so they can read up on this?
Yeah, you can either find it on my website at arcticbeacon.com. You can find a lot of it in my a lot of things I've said are on interviews. Also at www.worldreports.org in England, you can get a lot of the financial documentation that Christopher Story's done to help America.
Now, what is that? Worldreports.org.
.org.
Okay.
Yeah. And better yet, every bit of the documentation as far as the federal courts can be accessed through court records, Leo's jailing. You can also hear the government side of their lying stories about him on articles that the AP had written and stuff. So, this thing right now is just hush-hush.
Okay.
They don't want to mention a word. And that's what really tells me that the story's true.
So old Rupert on Fox News doesn't want to bring this forth.
Oh, no way. Just imagine how much trillions he's been using, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, he's definitely... You know what I thought was interesting is when I found out that he owned the NIV translation to the Bible. That scared me to death.
Well, you know what? I had not a friend, but one of my kind of a journalist I respected in Chicago, many people outside of that area. He was syndicated. His name was Mike Royko, and he was a columnist that basically, truth-telling, one of the last in his breed, died in the, I believe, '96 or '97. But he originally worked for the Chicago Daily News, which was an evening paper that was very, very good back in its day, and then went to the Sun-Times and was always competitive against the Tribune, which was more conservative. Well, when Rupert Murdoch bought the Sun-Times, Royko quit, and he said this. He said, "No respectable fish would ever want to be wrapped up in a Rupert Murdoch paper."
Wow. That's the slam of slams.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So
he quit and
does
went over to
Leo,
his competitor. But
does
anyway,
Leo stay on with you then? Do you contact him quite often to keep
Who's
up
that?
the story? Leo Wanta? Do you?
Yeah, I contact Michael Cottrell in this period more. He's the
Okay.
financial guy. Leo, I've talked to for a long time, weeks going on every day. We talk. Lately, he's been kind of quiet and wants to basically get the money released.
Yeah.
And has nothing further really to add. I mean, they've come out. I mean, Michael's been very forthright in exactly where everything is right now, and we're just waiting. I'm just waiting for an announcement, but in the meantime, I'm not going to forget about the story.
Right. So when this announcement comes, then people are going to be able to find out what's going on by going to your website,
Yeah,
arcticbeacon.com.
and I will keep up on it, even if there's no news. And I don't want this to just get lost, because that's how they operate too. They want you to forget about things and go on to some other tragedy that's going to occur or is occurring. And it's just about time that, like you said, all of us people that want to stop what's happening, to get together, to understand we can do something.
Yeah.
We may not, like you said, and I want to just repeat this, we may not be able to stop them. Maybe God will be the only one that can.
Right.
But that doesn't mean, and these are your words, and I want to thank you for them, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't continue to do something to either make it harder for these enemies of God,
Yeah.
or to do our best to thwart them.
Yeah.
And I really believe that
Yeah.
because they do not like one thing. They hate God, and they hate good people.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way we can. God maybe, like you said, can stop them, but we can delay them long enough so our children aren't killed by them.
I always remember evil men prosper when good men do nothing.
Exactly. Yep.
Greg, I thank you so much for being on. Hold on the line, and I thank you. We'll have you back. You've got so many stories, so maybe we'll have you back for another story. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Again, that was special guest Greg Szymanski. He will be with us another time. I'm going to bring him back. I love people that stand for integrity and for the truth, and Greg is one of them. If you want to reach him, you can reach him on arcticbeacon.com, arcticbeacon.com. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much, for your prayers. I love you guys. The big show tomorrow. I love you guys. I'll be talking to you tomorrow.
You've been listening to America's Man of Truth, Ronnie McMullen on the Prophetic Watch. If you'd like to contact Ronnie, you can email him at prowatch@gpcom.net or call the ministry at 308-882-7773. That's 308-882-7773. The Prophetic Watch is listener-supported and greatly appreciates your help. Remember, if you don't have any bugs on your windshield, you're not going anywhere.